27% of the world's maritime energy supply passes through a single stretch of water. 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Before this conflict began, more than 100 vessels crossed it every day. Oil tankers. Liquefied natural gas carriers. Container ships feeding the global economy. Today, the average is 3 or 4. Iran mined it. Iran missile struck it. Iran sent armed speedboats to attack anything that moved through it. At least 20 ships have been hit since this war began. And oil crossed $100 per barrel, multiple times, because the world's most important waterway was being held hostage. Iran believed it had that strait locked down permanently. Fast boats armed with missiles. Anti-ship cruise missiles hidden inside tunnels carved into mountainsides along the coastline. Underground launch sites buried too deep for conventional bombs to reach. Iran thought it had found the perfect trap. On March 17, the United States answered. Not with missiles. Not with naval gunfire. With 5,000-pound bombs that had never been dropped in combat before. Bombs that go through reinforced concrete the way a nail goes through paper. Bombs that find tunnels carved into mountainsides and seal them shut forever. The WWII. America's newest, most powerful bunker buster, used in combat for the very first time. In the next 20 minutes, I will show you exactly what the WWII is, why Iran could not stop it, what it did to every missile launch site along the Strait of Hormuz coast, and what comes next in the battle for the world's most critical waterway. To understand why the WWII strikes on March 17 matters so much, you first need to understand the strategy Iran built to control the Strait of Hormuz, because it was not improvised. It was carefully engineered over decades, and it was designed to be nearly impossible to dismantle. Iran's control over the strait operates on 3 overlapping layers. The first layer is the fast boat fleet. Iran deploys small, highly maneuverable speedboats equipped with sea-skimming missiles and other weapons. These craft dart in and out of the narrow waterway, attacking merchant vessels at close range, disappearing before a conventional military response can be organized. They are a harassment tool, difficult to track, difficult to engage, and capable of creating enormous disruption at very low cost. The second layer is the drone campaign. Iran has been launching drone swarms at shipping and at the military installations that support the effort to keep the strait open. We covered this extensively in our previous video, the Shahid campaign that has forced the United States to expend billions of dollars in interceptor missiles to defend its bases. But it is the third layer, the one that the United States targeted with WWII bombs on March 17, that presents the most serious and most durable long-term threat. Iran's anti-ship missile systems. The Iranian military has deployed a sophisticated array of anti-ship cruise missiles and ballistic missiles along the entire length of its Hormuz coastline. These are not improvised weapons. They are purpose-built systems designed to strike and destroy large vessels anywhere in the strait. The Ghadar and Qadar missiles are mounted on mobile road vehicles, trucks that can reposition between launch sites, making them difficult to target in advance. Their ranges vary from approximately 12 miles to 186 miles, which means they can threaten vessels across the entire width of the strait, from the coastline all the way to the opposing shore. Then there is the Abu Mahdi cruise missile. A more advanced weapon with a range of up to 621 miles. That range extends Iran's threat well beyond the strait itself, reaching into the broader Gulf region and threatening shipping across a vast operational area. And finally, the Hormuz II and Gulf anti-ship ballistic missiles, both with ranges of approximately 186 miles. Incorporate satellite navigation guidance, allowing them to track and strike moving ships at sea with considerably greater precision than earlier systems. Together, these weapons form a wall of lethal capability across the strait's coastline. But they share a critical vulnerability. They need somewhere to launch from. Iran has been aware for years that its fixed coastal launch sites would be priority targets in any conflict. So the regime invested heavily in hardening those sites. Burying launchers inside tunnels drilled deep into mountainsides, encasing facilities in reinforced concrete, and designing storage systems that could withstand all but the most extreme munitions. The calculation was straightforward: if the launchers are buried deep enough, the United States cannot reach them with conventional bombs. And if the launchers survive, the strait stays closed. That calculation was correct, until March 17. Because America was not bringing conventional bombs. The WWII is a 5,000-pound deep penetrating bunkerbuster bomb. But to understand why it matters so much in the context of Iran's Hormuz defenses, you need to understand how it fits into the broader American bunker-busting arsenal, and why Iran had no answer for it. The United States has been using bunker-buster munitions in Operation Epic Fury since its opening phase. The most extreme of these is the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, commonly called the MOP. A 30,000-pound behemoth capable of penetrating approximately 200 feet of earth before detonating. The MOP was already used against Iran's nuclear infrastructure earlier in the conflict, targeting deeply buried facilities that no other weapon could reach. At the other end of the scale, the U.S. has been deploying 2,000-pound bunker busters against hardened facilities across the Iranian mainland. 2,000 pounds bunker buster, standard penetrator, widespread use. WWII. 5,000 pounds deep penetrator, new, first combat deployment. MOP, 30,000 pounds massive ordnance penetrator, maximum penetration, used against nuclear sites. The WWII occupies a specific and important role in this hierarchy. It is designed to bridge the gap between the 2,000-pound weapons and the massive MOP, offering deeper penetration than the former but with much greater operational flexibility than the latter. Critically, it can be carried by aircraft that cannot accommodate the enormous MOP, giving commanders more options for delivery. The U.S. Air Force publicly unveiled the WWII in 2021, when it announced that the bomb had been successfully released from an F-15E Strike Eagle during testing. That was 4 years before it was used in combat against Iran's Hormuz missile sites. Pictures that emerged in 2024 also showed B-1 bombers carrying WWII bombs on their external weapons pylons, revealing that the United States had at least 2 delivery platforms for this weapon. Now, is this the first time the WWII has ever been used in combat? That question has a nuanced answer. Hal Kemper, a national security analyst and retired Marine intelligence officer, told Fox News directly that he was not aware of the WWII having been used before, describing the Hormuz coast strikes as, to his knowledge, the weapon's first operational deployment. The War Zone, a highly respected defense analysis outlet, notes a potential complication to that account. It points to a May 2024 CBS News report in which 3 U.S. officials confirmed that the WWII had already been used against Houthi compounds in Yemen, targeting underground facilities used by the Iran-backed group in the context of its attacks on Red Sea shipping. If that report is accurate, the parallel is striking. The same weapon, against the same tactic. Iran aligned forces using underground launch sites to threaten a critical maritime chokepoint, applied first in Yemen and then in the strait itself. Either way, Iran had no effective answer for it. The WWII's technical design is what makes it so effective against Iran's fortified positions. According to analysis from the War Zone, the WWII combines a Blue 138/B penetrating warhead, a hardened steel casing designed to punch through reinforced concrete and compacted earth before the explosive charge fires, with a modified version of the Joint Direct Attack Munition Guidance System. That guidance kit uses GPS and inertial navigation working together to give the weapon precision accuracy even when launched from a significant distance away from the target. That standoff launch capability is important. It means the aircraft dropping the bomb does not need to fly directly over the target, reducing its exposure to whatever remains of Iran's air defenses. Not that Iran's air defenses represented a significant obstacle by this point. Earlier operations, Operation Epic Fury and Israel's Operation Roaring Lion, had already eliminated approximately 85% of Iran's air defense network, according to analysis by the Alma Research and Education Center. Iran was attempting to defend its coastline with isolated, degraded remnants of a once comprehensive system. The warhead's explosive composition is also notable. Analysis indicates that the GBU-72 uses a combination of AFX-757 and PBXN-109 explosives, the same formulation used inside the massive ordnance penetrator. That consistency suggests the United States has identified this particular explosive pairing as optimal for penetrating hardened underground structures and is standardizing it across its bunker-busting arsenal. The GBU-72's predecessor, the GBU-28, which entered service back in 1991, could penetrate 15 feet of reinforced concrete and approximately 150 feet of compacted earth. If the GBU-72 was specifically developed to replace and improve upon that aging weapon, its penetration capabilities almost certainly exceed those figures by a meaningful margin. And here is the operational insight that defines why these bombs were so effective along the Hormuz coast. The goal was not necessarily to reach and destroy every missile launcher deep inside Iran's tunnels. Some facilities are buried so far underground that even a weapon of this power may not penetrate to the launcher itself. The goal was simpler and equally effective. Every tunnel needs an entrance. Every underground missile storage facility needs a way for its weapons to be brought to the surface for launch. Destroy the tunnel entrances, collapse them, seal them, fill them with rubble, and the launchers inside become permanently inaccessible. A missile system you cannot bring to the surface is a missile system that cannot threaten a single ship. That is what GBU-72 bombs did along the entire Strait of Hormuz coast on March 17. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, announced the strikes on March 17 in a post on X. The statement was concise and direct. U.S. forces had successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions against hardened Iranian missile sites along Iran's coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM identified the specific target category: Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles whose launch sites posed a direct threat to international shipping in the strait. Multiple GBU-72 bombs. Multiple sites. A coordinated campaign along the entire coastal threat corridor. Which aircraft delivered them? CENTCOM did not specify in its public statement. But the operational logic points strongly toward the B-1 Lancer bombers currently based at RAF Fairford in England. Here is why. RBC Ukraine reported that current estimates suggest the U.S. dropped up to 48 GBU-72 bombs in the Hormuz coast strikes. An F-15E Strike Eagle, the other confirmed GBU-72 delivery platform, can carry only one of these weapons per aircraft. To deliver 48 bombs via F-15ES would require 48 separate aircraft sorties, each carrying a single weapon. A B-1 Lancer, by contrast, can carry up to 12 GBU-72 bombs per aircraft. 4 B-1s could deliver the entire reported payload of 48 weapons in a single coordinated strike. The math points clearly to the B-1s at RAF Fairford as the primary delivery aircraft. The fact that those bombers have been operationally active throughout this conflict, flying the approximately 8,500-kilometer route from England to Iran and back, makes this conclusion more concrete. F-15ES may well have been involved in a supporting role. Flying faster initial attack runs to suppress any surviving air defenses as the B-1s made their approach, or following up with precision strikes on specific hardened positions once the main GBU-72 drops had been completed. The immediate strategic impact was significant. Iran's anti-ship cruise missile sites along the Strait's coast, the infrastructure that has been enabling Iran to threaten any vessel attempting the crossing, were struck with weapons designed specifically to destroy underground hardened facilities. Sites that Iran believed were protected by layers of concrete and mountain rock were targeted with bombs that were purpose-built over several years to defeat exactly those defenses. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper stated the mission plainly: the United States remains, in his words, zeroed in on dismantling Iran's threat to the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz. He added that U.S. Pilots are dynamically hunting threats in real time, finding and eliminating targets as they are identified, and that the United States will not stop pursuing those targets. That is not a statement of completion. That is a statement of ongoing campaign. The March 17 strikes on Iran's Hormuz missile sites were a significant tactical achievement. But they did not, by themselves, resolve the crisis in the strait. The broader question: whether the world's most critical energy waterway will return to normal function, depends on decisions being made in Tehran, in Washington, and in capital cities across the global coalition watching this conflict unfold. Here is where things stand. Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has been economically devastating. The waterway normally carries approximately 27% of global maritime energy supply. Oil, liquefied natural gas, and refined products that fuel economies across Asia, Europe, and beyond. The effective closure of the strait has pushed oil prices above $100 per barrel multiple times during this conflict. Neil Crosby, head of oil research at the energy analysis firm Sparta, captured the prevailing prior assumption perfectly when he told the New York Times, "The classic line of everybody, including myself, up to this point, was always, it's too big to fail. It will never close." It closed. And the consequences are being felt globally. On March 22, U.S. President Donald Trump issued a direct 48-hour ultimatum to Iran: reopen the Strait of Hormuz or the United States will strike domestic Iranian power plants, the infrastructure that keeps electricity flowing throughout the country. Iran's response came through its government speaker, Mohammad Bakr Kalibaf, who posted on X to warn that if Iranian power plants and infrastructure are targeted, Iran will treat the critical energy infrastructure and oil facilities throughout the entire region as legitimate targets for destruction, and will do so irreversibly. That exchange captures the razor's edge the situation is balanced on. But there are signs, tentative and conditional, that the unrelenting pressure the WWII strikes represent is beginning to produce some movement in Tehran. Reuters reported on March 22 that Iran has stated it is opening the strait to all vessels except those it designates as enemy-linked. The statement stops well short of a full reopening. It leaves entirely undefined which ships Iran will classify as enemy-linked, American vessels certainly, but what about NATO-aligned merchant ships? What about vessels from countries that trade regularly with the United States? The ambiguity may be deliberate. Iran needs a path toward de-escalation that does not look like capitulation, a way to claim it is responding to diplomatic pressure rather than military defeat, even as WWII bombs have just sealed its missile launch tunnels along the coastline. Whether that path leads to genuine normalization of strait traffic, or whether it collapses into continued confrontation, depends heavily on the next phase of military pressure. The B-1s at RAF Fairford remain mission-ready. Admiral Cooper's statement, that the United States will not stop pursuing threats to the strait, makes clear that the March 17 strikes were not a one-time event. American air power over the Hormuz region is continuing to gather intelligence on missile sites that may have been missed or survived the initial volley. Additional strikes remain a live possibility. On the coalition front, NATO's Secretary-General Mark Rutte has confirmed that alliance members are actively exploring ways to contribute to the Strait of Hormuz security mission. Axios reported on March 19 that 7 U.S. allies have indicated willingness to form a patrol coalition for the strait, though no concrete commitments have been finalized, and the timing relative to Operation Epic Fury's ongoing phase remains unclear. Trump himself has sent a mixed signal, simultaneously calling for Allied assistance in policing the strait and declaring that the United States does not need any help at all. The Allies are watching both statements and calibrating their responses accordingly. Let me bring this complete picture together. Iran spent years engineering what it believed was an impenetrable defense of the Strait of Hormuz. Anti-ship missiles hidden in tunnels carved into mountainsides. Underground launch sites encased in reinforced concrete. A layered system of fast boats, mines, drones, and precision missiles designed to close the world's most critical waterway and hold it closed indefinitely. The calculation worked. Until the United States deployed a weapon purpose-built to defeat exactly that kind of defense. The WWII, a 5,000-pound deep-penetrating bunker-buster bomb, was dropped in combat for the first time, possibly the first time ever, along Iran's Hormuz coast on March 17. It penetrates reinforced concrete. It collapses tunnel entrances. It seals underground missile launch sites permanently. And it was delivered in large numbers, potentially 48 bombs across multiple sites. By B-1 Lancer bombers flying from RAF Fairford in England. The missile launchers that Iran used to terrorize merchant shipping are either destroyed or permanently inaccessible. But the crisis is not over. Iran's blockade has reduced strait traffic from more than 100 vessels per day to 3 or 4. At least 20 ships have been attacked. Oil prices have breached $100 per barrel repeatedly. The global economy is absorbing the shock of a waterway that was supposed to be too important to ever closing. A 48-hour ultimatum has been issued. Conditional signs of Iranian flexibility have emerged. The B-1s at RAF Fairford remain ready to fly again. A potential allied coalition is forming, slowly. And Iran's regime is attempting to balance military defiance with the economic and strategic reality of what WWII bombs just did to its coastal missile infrastructure. The bomb cracked the strait open. Whether it stays open depends on what comes next. Stay connected and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell icon for upcoming and updated video.